welcome to the latest William Hill FWA podcast. I'm here with Ollie Holt, Chief Sports Writer of the Mail on Sunday. Ollie was in Kaliningrad last night looking at England, watching that defeat to Belgium, but it's sort of a tricky one because we've ended up with the better side of the draw, but a more difficult last 16 opponent in Colombia, haven't we?
Yes, we have. I mean, it is a tricky one because it was a game that I think neither side could quite make up its mind whether it wanted to win. It was decided by a moment of brilliance from Adnan Januzaj. And yeah, I think we still can't quite make up our minds whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that we finished second in the group. Now we have probably a more difficult game initially against Colombia than we would have done if we were playing Japan. But then if we get through that, and it is a big if we get through that, then the next stage, the quarter-final, looks on paper easier than if we were playing Brazil on the other side of the draw. So I think the interesting thing, Jerry, is the idea of whether it's interrupted our momentum. I think that, you know, there's a bit of negativity around now, as there was bound to be if the result went against us. But I think that Gareth Southgate stuck to his plans. He's always been about the long term. I think he thought it was valuable to rest some players and valuable to give other players game time. He stuck to that, and I think in the long term that will improve our chances against Colombia.
I mean, as you say, it's the long-term thinking. It's a brave move because if England don't beat Colombia, it blows up in his face. Mm-hmm. And also, he's got to keep the players in his squad happy and motivated. And how do you think Harry Kane will take that? Because he would have looked at, you know, he's obviously he's 6-4 favourite with William Hill about being top scorer in the tournament, and he looked at that match last night, which was effectively Belgium's reserve side, thinking, well, that's another goal or two he could have got.
Yes, I think he will have thought that up to a point, but I think he's also big enough, Harry Kane, to realise that it is about the team, and okay, he wants to win the Golden Boot, but it's about the team first. I think all the leading goal scorers feel that, so maybe he'll feel it's an opportunity missed, but he will still, I think, go into the Colombia game full of confidence. Certainly, as journalists and as fans, we'll all be looking at Harry Kane and thinking, okay, when Harry Kane doesn't play, England don't score. So I mean, I think he's massively important to us. As is, I think, you know, we will hope obviously that Dele Alli looks as though he'd be fit for that Colombia game. And so I mean, I think yes, maybe a missed opportunity for Harry Kane to add a few goals, add another goal to his tally, but then Lukaku didn't play either. So
yeah, and of course it was a chance for players to impress last night, wasn't it? To show Southgate what they've got.
Yeah.
Any of them? How many of them do you think have made a really strong case for inclusion in that Colombia game?
I don't think any of them did, actually, and that's not a massive criticism of them. I think there are a few missed opportunities. Look, I thought some players played well. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold played well, very well at right back. Danny Rose, I thought, played well at left back. I thought they were probably the two best players of the lads who were trying to make a case to get in. I just think that in Alexander-Arnold's case, probably Trippier's going to keep his place.
Yeah, you'd imagine.
And I think probably the same with Ashley Young. But I thought, I don't want to be overly critical of Marcus Rashford, but I think he was the one that everybody was looking at to see if he could really make an impact. He's got a habit of making big impacts in big games. Often scored that cracking goal at Ellen Road in the warm-up game against Costa Rica. So I think there were people wondering last night if he would make a big statement and give Gareth Southgate a real problem. Maybe him or you know, to drop Raheem Sterling, but he didn't. You know, he missed one very good chance. It's a very difficult game to impress in, but he was slightly peripheral. Yeah, I think so. I don't think he said to Gareth Southgate, "You have to pick me." That just didn't happen.
Now we know that Colombia are a strong team. They seem to have got better from that opening defeat to Japan. but doubts about James Rodriguez. That would be obviously work in England's favour. So is that going to be a talking point for the next few days, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is, absolutely. Their equivalent of the various dramas we've had over the years, when is Beckham fit, isn't he fit, is Rooney fit? I'm sure they'll be going through the same kind of stuff. So it's nice that England don't have that. They can worry about that. We know that he came off in the last game. He hasn't looked fully fit in this tournament. When he has played, he's had a couple of outstanding moments. So I think that's a bonus for England, that he's clearly not fully fit, whether he makes the game or not. But they are a good side. They've got fantastic support here, as all the South American nations have. So yeah, if the best Colombia turns up, then they're going to be a very, very stiff test for us.
And as we said, now that puts England into a more favourable half of the draw, it seems, on paper.
Yeah.
And that's moved England up to, well, third favourites now.
Right.
So Brazil 7-2, Spain 4-1, England 7-1, Belgium 7-1.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the overall picture, is Brazil still favourites? Does that still make sense from your point of view?
I think so. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think they look good all around the pitch. I mean, that Coutinho pass for Paulinho to score the other night was just fantastic. They look very solid in that game against Serbia. So I think that's fair that they're favourites. I also think it's fair that Spain are second favourites. I would have had them as favourites, but they have obviously been a little bit shakier than usual in the build-up. I think those odds are slightly harsh for England. I mean, I think Belgium, you would put probably Belgium. I would put Belgium as more fancied to win the tournament than England. I think probably France too, and possibly Croatia. So,
but maybe that reflects that side of the draw,
Of
which
course.
looks stronger, doesn't it? Argentina are there.
It does.
Brazil.
Yeah, although
Belgium,
you're
France.
right. It does reflect that side of the draw. But I mean, I'm not sure that Argentina are. Well, it'd be very interesting to see how they play against France. I mean, they've squeezed through so far and looked very shaky, even in the last game against Nigeria. But maybe they'll play. The big teams have a habit of playing their way into the tournament.
And we mentioned Coutinho, and obviously Neymar started as the main man for Brazil, and he was one of the favourites to be top scorer, but he's drifted out now. And it does look like Coutinho actually is the man who makes Brazil tick at the moment, isn't he?
Very much so, yeah. I mean, I think that obviously Neymar has had that long spell out with injury. There are concerns about his future, where he's going to go. A lot of speculation about that. He's not looking like a guy at the moment who's at the top of his game. I mean, he's a sublime player when he is at the top of his game, and again, maybe he will play his way into the tournament. But at the moment, Coutinho is absolutely the guy, and they've just got a very good team. They're strong in all areas. It's difficult to see weaknesses, and I think the same applies to Spain, who obviously, in the mode of us getting well ahead of ourselves with England. I mean, Spain potentially are there, aren't they, in the semi-final? If we were to get that far. I mean, interesting game that they've got against Russia in Moscow on Sunday, which I think will tell us a little bit more about Spain, because obviously it'll be a very partisan atmosphere in the Luzhniki. So we'll find out a bit more. We're going to start finding out a lot more about the teams very quickly now. And
just finally, Ollie, your reflections on Russia and the World Cup so far?
Well, I've had a great time, Jerry. You speak as you find, and I've found everybody very welcoming and helpful, and the organisation has been great. I mean, FIFA, we can say many things about FIFA, and they've got many weaknesses and faults, but they know how to organise a tournament, and the organisation has been terrific. The transport's been great in terms of getting around the place. The air travel's been fine. I've been on a few train journeys which have been interesting. For me, it's been a fascinating glimpse of a country that I didn't really know much about before. Look, I think it would be easy to be naive and say that because we've all had a good time means that all the problems that we talked about in advance with attitudes towards homophobia here and racism, certainly not pretending that those problems don't exist. Just that, I think they, as I say, you have to speak on the evidence that you find, and the evidence of interactions with ordinary people has been really encouraging and welcoming, and I think it's been a fascinating trip so far.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ollie. And
Pleasure.
don't forget, keep coming back to the FWA William Hill podcast.